Ordinary meeting of the Hillshire Council on the 14th April 2026. Can we start by giving the listener another big round of applause? Thank you so much for being here and leading us in the national anthem. You sing really, really well, and I always say this, and I genuinely mean this. You sing better than everyone in this room, including myself. Just ask my kids. You're obviously very, very talented, and I think it's the first time you've sung for us, so it's really nice to have you here. We look forward to seeing you again. Well done and thank you. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians on the land on which we meet today. I'd also like to pay my respects to elders past and present, and as I'm accustomed to doing so, I'd also like to acknowledge our veterans and all those who have and who are currently serving our great nation. This public meeting is required to be live streamed on Council's website, and a person's image and or voice may be broadcast. This is outlined in Council's adopted code of meeting practice, available on Council's website. Attendance at this meeting is to be taken as consent by a person to their image and or voice being live streamed. If any persons attending this meeting, including members of the public, do not agree to being live streamed, you can choose to leave the meeting before the meeting starts. Council accepts no liability for any damage that may result from defamatory comments made by persons attending meetings, and all liability will rest with the individual who made the comments. The recording will be published and made available on Council's website for the balance of the Council's term or for 12 months, whichever is the longer period. In addition, the recording will be retained as a Council record. Members of the public are afforded the privilege of attending this meeting to witness the Council making its decisions. Individuals acting in a disorderly manner can be asked to leave the meeting. Members of the public must remain silent, must not bring flags, signs or protest material, and must not disrupt the meeting. As we get underway, can everyone please make sure your phones are on silent? A person must not live stream or use an audio recorder, video camera, mobile phone or any other device to make a recording or to photograph these proceedings unless you have prior authorisation of this Council. Tonight's prayer will be given by Rick Mason of Rouse Hill Anglican Church.
Thank you and good evening. Some people see power and authority as an opportunity for self-gain, make money for themselves, their families through business deals. No one from this room, but you may think of people who have power and authority and use it for self-gain. At our Holiday Kids Club, we taught our kids on Wednesday at our church that Jesus Christ, who has all authority as the Son of God, came to earth not to be served, but to serve. We taught the kids that power and authority are about serving others. I'm so encouraged that I've spoken to you over the many years I've been doing this, that you see your role as being to serve the community. That's what power and authority looks like. That's what Jesus shows us. And then on day 2, we taught them how Jesus shows his greatest act of service. Jesus came, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve, the verse finishes, and to give his life as a ransom for many. The greatest act of service that Jesus did was to die on the cross at that first Easter, to pay the price for our sins, to take the penalty we deserve. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for doing it for the sake of the community. Let me pray. Almighty God, in sending your eternal Son, Jesus, not to be served but to serve, you set an example to all humankind. May all who hold positions of power and authority be taught by Jesus' example to humbly serve those they have authority over. Give such an attitude of service to this council tonight that they may make decisions for the good of those they represent. Help them to act in love and peace towards each other and the community. And may they be taught how to do so by personal knowledge of your love towards them, sending Jesus to die for them on the cross as a ransom for their sins. We ask this for the good of the community and for your glory. Amen.
Thank you so much. Thank you for leading us in prayer tonight, and you have been coming for a number of years, and it's always lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
And thank you for your message as well. It's always important to remember why we're here and the fact that we are here to serve community, not ourselves. But thank you to you for your service, because your service is greatly appreciated. It doesn't go unrecognised either. So thank you to you and your church. We look forward to seeing you again very, very soon, I'm sure. Thank you. We move to item 1, confirmation of the minutes, ordinary meeting of council of 31st of March 2026. Moved by councillor Bonham, seconded by councillor Massey. Is there any debate? No debate, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Those against? That motion is carried. Thank you, councillors. Are there any apologies this evening, councillors? Councillor Jodie. Thank you. Do we have a seconder? Thank you, councillor Uno. Any debate? No debate, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Against? Thank you. The apologies are accepted and leave of absence is granted to councillors Cartwright and Casby. Councillors, any declarations of interest this evening? Councillor Uno.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I declare a declaration of interest for item 2, and I shall be leaving the room as it's a pecuniary interest.
Thank you, councillor Uno. Any other declarations of interest this evening, councillors? No? We move to mayoral minutes. Mayoral minute number 7/2026, Anzac Day 2026. Councillors, Anzac Day, commemorated each year on 25th April, is one of Australia's most solemn and important days of national remembrance. It marks the anniversary of the landing of Australian and New Zealand forces at Gallipoli in 1915 and provides an opportunity for communities across the nation to pause and reflect on the service and sacrifice of those who have served our country in times of war, conflict and peacekeeping. Anzac Day is a time to honour the courage, mateship and resilience of all who have worn the uniform, as well as to remember those who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service to our nation. It also acknowledges those who returned home carrying physical and emotional scars and the families who have supported them and continue to bear the legacy of that service. Throughout the Hill Shire, Anzac Day is marked by dawn services, marches and commemorative ceremonies led by local RSL sub-branches and veterans organisations. These events are supported by schools, community groups and residents who come together to ensure the Anzac spirit is preserved and passed on to future generations. As a council, it is appropriate that we formally acknowledge Anzac Day and reaffirm our respect and gratitude for the men and women who have served and continue to serve in the Australian Defence Force. The freedoms and the way of life we enjoy today have been shaped by their sacrifice and service, and it is our responsibility to ensure that their contributions are never forgotten. At the 10th of March council meeting, council resolved to reaffirm the significance of the last post as a sacred ceremonial call for commemorating the service and sacrifice of Australian veterans who have died at war. The gravity of the last post has been promoted on council's social and communication channels. It's a small but powerful way to acknowledge those who have given their lives for our country. On behalf of council and the residents of the Hill Shire, I extend our sincere thanks to all the current and former service personnel. I'd also like to acknowledge the ongoing work of the local RSL sub-branch, veteran organisations and volunteers who play a vital role in organising commemorative services and supporting veterans and their families throughout the year, lest we forget. Accordingly, I move that 1, this mayoral minute be received. 2, council acknowledges the significance of Anzac Day and honours the service and sacrifice of all Australian and New Zealand service personnel, past and present. 3, council expresses its gratitude to local RSL sub-branches, veterans organisations and community volunteers for their ongoing contribution to Anzac Day commemorations within the Hill Shire. And 4, council observe a minute silence in honour of those who have served and those who ultimately made the sacrifice in service to our nation. Councillor Massey.
Madam Mayor, thank you for your mayoral minute this evening on Anzac Day. I think it's important that we commemorate Anzac Day each year, and the strength of those who attend the Anzac Day services, particularly the dawn services, is growing, and that's very pleasing to see. So when I attend, along with yourself, Madam Mayor, and all the other councillors, these services, not just for the Carswell RSL sub-branch, but also throughout the Shire, it's pleasing to see the number of members of the community who come out and support Anzac Day. Anzac Day is a day that we commemorate and pay tribute to those who fought and died for this country, and those who served. And yes, you're absolutely right, Madam Mayor. There are a number of veterans who did come back and who were scarred from what they saw in wartime. And we don't know. We can't, unless you're physically in a war, you cannot understand the magnitude and what these brave men and women went through fighting and serving their country. Madam Mayor, I wasn't here on the 10th of March. I did have a leave of absence, but I'm very pleased that you did pay mention that that the playing of the last post, it is a solemn event, and it's a very moving part of the Anzac Day service, and that's one of the things I actually you know, it's still you know, to hear it played out on every commemoration service that I go to. It's a sign of respect, a sign of respect for those who died, a sign of respect for those who fought, and it's a sign of respect for the families who endured hardship from those who fought in a war, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, I encourage everyone in the Hills, every community member in the Hills, whoever's watching this evening, please support Anzac Day. Please come out to your local dawn service or any Anzac Day commemoration. It's important that we continue honouring the men and women who fought and served throughout this country. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Damasi. Any further speakers? Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Damasi, for your comments on this. Councillors and Madam Mayor, we have a 99-year-old, amongst others, 99-year-old World War II veteran that lives in Kenthurst, and his name is Ray Biggles Hancock. Now, Ray is an active Rotarian and an RFS member at Kenthurst RFS. Ray has been selected to tell his war story at the Anzac Day Eve concert that will be held end of next week. And I think you all should take the opportunity, whenever you would, if you do get the opportunity to meet Biggles, talk to him about his war service. He's one of these people that loves telling you about the planes that he flew and how he grew up earlier in the war as a kid, and then eventually he served himself. And some of the stories are just mind-blowing. The things he's been through, the things that his friends had gone through, the friends that didn't come back. I think part of Anzac Day is not just honouring and the service, but it's telling the stories and keeping those stories alive. And I'm just going to read you a paragraph here of a speech I presented at Annengrove last year. So today I encourage you to tell the stories, share them with your children, help them understand that what they have today was made possible by those who gave everything. The telling of stories is what keeps our history alive, and as it should. Charles Bean, Australia's first World War historian, landed at Gallipoli with the troops on the 25th of April 1915 and remained with them through the entirety of the war. He documented the official history. He kept these stories alive. In his final reflection, he wrote, "What these men did, nothing can alter now. The good and the bad, the greatness and the smallness of their story. It rises, it always rises. Above the mists of ages, a monument to the great-hearted men and for their nation, a possession forever." So here today, I ask you this. When you pass a war memorial, stop, read the names and speak them aloud. When you visit a reserve named after a veteran or a battle, pause, reflect on why it was named. When you meet someone who has served, thank them for their service and mean it, because those who paid the ultimate price gave their tomorrow for our today. We're a living legacy of their sacrifice. Let us be worthy of it, lest we forget.
Lest we forget. Any further speakers? Councillor Jackson and then Councillor Seaver.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's always a lot to say about Anzac Day, but one thing I like to reflect on is the experience through COVID, where we weren't able to gather together as a community, but we were allowed to be able to stand out front of our houses on the street, appropriately socially distanced, and throughout the basin in Bella Vista, we were able to hear various people, especially young people, playing the last post on their trumpets from school, or whether they had it on a speaker playing. And I've constantly been able to reflect on that opportunity that we as Australians have to be able to do that to start off with, but also so many that stood out, that took photos and encouraged other people to do it. It's probably one of our only opportunities to be able to celebrate, or not celebrate, I don't mean it in those terms, but to acknowledge and recognise the sacrifice of those that have protected our country to be able to make it the way that it is, and for us to be able to have the freedoms that we have. I've been even more encouraged by the community, especially as we go to these Anzac Day events, especially the dawn services, and there's so many young children that come along. I take my children, and I know many other people do, to be able to get a bit of an understanding of what the day and the commemoration means, but also because it's generally pretty cold, for them to be able to feel the cold, for them to be able to feel the discomfort, and be able to have a discussion around some of the experiences that young people went through in signing up for war, and many dying for the belief in our country and what it was able to become. Like Councillor Wood, Madam Mayor, I definitely encourage everybody in our community to be able to participate in whatever Anzac Day service that they can as a community, but also to take a moment with their families to have a discussion around what Anzac Day is and what it means to us. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Gretsever.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you properly mentioned, Anzac Day, on Anzac Day we reflect profound legacy of bravery, sacrifice and mateship. But today I do not just stand before you as a councillor, I stand before you as a mother of two wonderful boys. And it is through lens of motherhood that his story of war touch the deepest and most vulnerable part of my heart. When we think about Anzac, those brave soldiers who stormed the beaches of Gallipoli and fought in the trenches of the Western Front, we often picture seasoned men. But the heartbreaking reality is that so many of them were just boys, teenagers. Some were 18, 19, others stepping into uniform just at 16. As a mother, I looked at my own growing boys, and I think the mothers of century ago. I tried to imagine the terror and suffocating uncertainty they felt standing at their docks, waving goodbye to their sons. They sent their boys off with profound sense of purpose, but yes, also in unimaginable damage. I understand this legacy and usefulness, sacrifice, and ultimate bravery deeply, as it runs in all my family. My great-grandfather, Alexander Grivtsov, was a hero of USSR. He died in Estonia in his 20s, sacrificing his own life to the safety of others in World War II. Against relentless enemy fire and under impossible conditions, he heroically, repeatedly drove vital ammunition across trenches, ice to his unit, ultimately giving his life to ensure the comrades could survive. It's difficult balance as a parent wanting to protect our children from horrors of the world, while knowing we have duty to teach them the true cost of peace. Recently, our family traveled to Europe, and I took my boys to see scars of war left upon the earth. We walked through the dark catacombs and museums of Verdun. We stood on the sands of Omaha Beach in France, looking out at endless rows of white crosses. And we walked through the gates of Dachau concentration camp in Germany. I watched my son's eyes widen as they began to comprehend the sheer scale of horror, the grief and destruction. I wanted them to see this. I wanted them to understand what the freedom they enjoy today was paid for with lives of young men too much older than they will be soon. The war is not just a chapter in history book. It's catastrophic failure of humanity that leaves generation scars. We must teach our children through devastating consequences of the conflict, so they may grow to be champions of the peace tomorrow. Today we honor the young men of Anzac legend alongside all of those who have fallen in the pursuit of peace. We honor their courage, we honor their mothers' tears, we honor the fragile, beautiful peace they brought for us. May we never take it for granted, lest we forget.
Lest we forget. Any further speakers? Councillor Ono.
Madam Mayor, thank you for your well thought out and sombre comments about Anzac Day. It's really important that we pass these messages and stories on to our future generations, to our children. and to our grandchildren, Madam Mayor, that the horrors of war are never too far away. We've heard some really moving stories, Madam Mayor, of family members from other councillors and their sacrifices that they have given in the protection of their family and friends, Madam Mayor. And it's, I wanted just to share with the council my own family's experience. So as many of you would know, that my family came from Italy several generations ago. Some of my family came in the 1930s and some came in the 1950s. But it's interesting that one of my dad's cousins, or it was in Italian we would say compare, but it was a family, it's a show of respect, Madam Mayor, that he enlisted in the Australian Army, Madam Mayor, as an engineer and served in Papua New Guinea. Is interesting because at the same stage, his cousins and family in Sydney were being rounded up and put into internment camps. So it just shows you the love that he had for this country, a new country where English was his second language, but he was still willing to fight and defend this nation, while his family had some of their freedoms taken away. But Madam Mayor, it just shows you that generations on that we can all pull together, we can recognise the past and ensure that we never go to the brink of that sort of destruction again. And we love our loved ones and we protect them with all that we can, and we avoid war at all practical costs. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor No. Councillor Bonham.
Sombre and very dignified. Look, it's no small thing for anybody to pull on a uniform and defend their country. And anyone who's watched any of those documentaries on Gallipoli will have some small, probably, idea of just how dreadful the conditions and the sufferings were that our young servicemen and women put up with when Gallipoli was men, I think. But yeah, those were awful experiences they had to endure, just horrible. We would not wish that on anybody, and we thank them. Far from glorifying war, Anzac Day tries to pay tribute and give thanks for all those brave men and women who chose and who still choose today, if necessary, to give their lives for those of us who stay behind. I think, well, may we all try to be worthy of their sacrifice by leading generous and selfless lives ourselves. And I second Councillor Jackson's invitation to anybody who can to come along to some of the services on, and if not at least to reflect what giving a life for your countrymen actually means. I had two uncles who served in New Guinea. One of them in particular did not want to talk about his experiences, but he did say something to one of his sons at one stage. He then passed it on to me. I just heard a snippet, and it was just horrible what he endured. And I understand why a lot of these servicemen and women come back and don't want to speak of the horrors of that. Just awful. I just wanted to second Councillor Uno for something. En blank. In any case, I want to thank you again.
Thank you, Councillor Bonham. Any further speakers? No further speakers. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those against? It's carried. Thank you, councillors. If you could please stand for a minute's silence. Thank you. Please be seated. We move to Mayoral Minute number 8/2026, the State of Youth Funding. Councillors, this Thursday, 16th April, marks the State of New South Wales Youth Week, an opportunity for councils, youth organisations and schools to host free activities and events to celebrate our young people. For this year's Youth Week, council is hosting free filmmaking and art workshops, a movie night, footy skills and drills with Parramatta Eels and more. Young people can access these free events through our partnership with the New South Wales Government, which provided $4,924 in match funding towards this year's youth activities. Youth Week is a great example of how different tiers of government can work together to support young people within our community. Late last year, Council was advised by the New South Wales Department of Communities and Justice, DCJ, that funding arrangements for youth services delivered by local councils will change after the end of the 2026/27 financial year, including the cessation of Community and Family Support CAFS program funding. While the full extent of future funding arrangements for councils remains unclear, the advice received indicates a significant reduction in councils' ability to continue delivering youth programs at current levels. From 2020 to the end of the 2025/2026 financial year, council received $525,414.82 in funding under the DCJ Targeted Early Intervention Program. This funding has enabled council to provide important youth programming for young people aged between 12 to 24 in our shire. The TEI program has since been renamed the CAFS program. For the 2026/27 financial year, that funding will total more than $96,000. Over the years, these funds have helped council create an extensive array of youth programming that has given young people productive things to do rather than doom scrolling on screens after school. Council programs supported by the New South Wales Government funding include youth skills, free courses for aspiring baristas, DJs, barbers, tech workers, musicians and more. The South Maroota School Holiday Program, run biannually in the rural north, Youth Week activities, school holiday programs, peer-assisted study sessions. Since 2020, more than 3,900 young people have been engaged in free programs directly funded by CAFS funding in the Hills Shire alone. Unlike some of our neighbours, the Hills Shire does not have a significant number of youth service providers operating in our area. In fact, the largest service provider, Youth Resolutions, ceased all operations in March 2026, leaving a significant gap in youth service delivery across the Shire. Unlike almost every surrounding local government area, the Hills Shire does not have a dedicated permanent youth centre. Community facilities and social infrastructure, like youth centres, are not funded through developed contributions as they are not considered essential infrastructure criteria. That means state and federal funding sources are required to provide facilities like this. While service delivery models differ and not all youth centres are directly operated by councils, neighbouring LGAs benefit from established fit-for-purpose youth spaces where young people can safely gather, access youth workers, participate in structured programs and build positive connections within their community. The absence of a permanent youth centre in the Hills Shire places increasing pressure on council-run programs and outreach services and limits our ability to provide ongoing place-based support for young people. As funding is withdrawn and service providers exit the sector, the need for a dedicated youth centre in the Hills Shire becomes even more pronounced. I acknowledge that, like council, the New South Wales Government is under significant budgetary pressure. However, young people are living through a uniquely challenging period. Mental health issues are more prevalent among young people than ever before, with contributing factors including the widespread adoption of smartphones and social media over the past decade. In our own shire, youth crime remains an ongoing concern, particularly around our metro stations. Council has received representations from the Hills Police Area Command and youth service providers requesting that we provide young people with more positive structured activities and safe places to go. The Hills Shire has the highest housing targets of any council in New South Wales, with no other local government area expected to deliver more homes by 2029. While council is focused on providing essential infrastructure such as roads, footpaths and sporting fields, population growth and higher density living are increasing the demand for community spaces, particularly for young people. We want to do more to support young people in our shire, but as things stand, we do not have sufficient funding to meet even essential infrastructure needs in growth areas such as Box Hill. We need all the support that New South Wales can provide to help engage young people. At a time when many are experiencing loneliness, isolation, anxiety and depression, we should be increasing, not reducing opportunities for participation and connection. The CAS funding has played a vital role in enabling council to provide these opportunities. I respectfully ask New South Wales Government to reconsider the decision and reinstate the CAS funding. Accordingly, I move that this Mayor minute be received. 2. Council acknowledges the important role that the New South Wales Government's CAF funding has played in engaging young people across the Hills Shire. 3. The Mayor write to the New South Wales Minister for Mental Health and Minister for Youth, the Honourable Rose Jackson MLC, requesting that the Minns Government extend CAF funding beyond the 2026-2027 financial year. And 4. Council acknowledges the absence of a dedicated permanent youth centre in the Hills Shire and notes the importance of such a facility in supporting young people, particularly in high growth areas. Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for bringing this issue to not only the council's attention but the community as a whole. Madam Mayor, we hear time and time again through this chamber the issues that we experience in infrastructure surrounding the massive increase in high-rise across the hills. We often speak of what children would be doing of weekends, after school, before school, those type of times in their lives. And I know growing up as a high school student here in the hills, I was fortunate enough to live on a relatively large parcel of land, a residential block, but nonetheless we had a backyard. I was able to kick a ball. We had a local park, and we made do. But as I progressed and got older, the only thing for teenagers to do was, if you didn't want to go to the park, was to go and hang out at Castle Towers. And really, Madam Mayor, apart from a few programs that we've been able to implement, which has been subject to the CAFS program, there really not a lot has changed. And when we look at that, and we talk here in this mayoral, or you talk in this mayoral minute around a youth space and providing those opportunities, I think even more so now, given that we've got so many of our younger children and teenagers living in high-rise with no space to play, a facility such as a dedicated youth space is even more important. What then becomes an issue is how that's funded, and we speak here in the mayoral minute of the lack of ability in the contribution plans framework and to collect for community facilities. Not only youth spaces, but indoor rec centres, libraries, community halls, aquatic centres, gyms, all those types of facilities that an active community requires, not only for fitness but for mental health. So moving forward, Madam Mayor, I think it is key that we continue to target the advocacy around increasing awareness for what the cutting of the funding is going to do for our community. And I see this again as a cost-shifting mechanism. We can't, as a community, we know as councillors, we can't as a community put on programs, as a council put on programs and then just cut them. We know that, not only just from this perspective, but other programs we run. Once you've brought it in, you can't take it away. So we're going to have to look at running these programs, but who's going to have to fund it? Well, it's going to have to come from council, isn't it? It's just another cost-shifting mechanism, and it's only so much that councils can deal with this. I know this council is in a relatively healthy financial situation, but I also am concerned of those councils that don't, and other areas that potentially in low socio-economic areas that don't have the opportunities that we do here in this council area. And this is going to be a much larger problem. But collectively, Madam Mayor, I think as council we need to advocate for this very hard. We need to look at options to keep our youth engaged, particularly when we are the shire that has the highest housing target. And I hate using the word target because, as we've seen, it continually changes. We don't really know what that target is. But when we've got the highest number of houses coming into the Sydney, in New South Wales as a whole, we really need to be providing opportunities for our young people. If we're going to keep them engaged, keep them out of getting into trouble, keep their mental health strong, we've got to give them something to do. And if they're going to be boxed up in high-rise with no facilities, I'm in grave concern for the youth of our council. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Councillor Severage, and then we'll come around here. Councillor Hazen.
I note that we do not have a significant number of youth service providers. I also note that the largest service provider, Youth Resolutions, ceased all operations in March 2026. I also note that we do not have a dedicated permanent youth centre. I also like to note that these youth centers cannot be considered essential infrastructure and therefore cannot be covered through developer contributions, and therefore state and federal funding becomes critical to building these youth centers. As you have rightly pointed out, we are living in challenging times where our youth have sleep issues, they have mental health issues, all connected to the use of smartphones, usage of internet and so on. And I believe it is council's responsibility to provide activities which actually take them away from such internet and smartphone usage. I can offer my services if you want to maybe have a meeting with Minister Rose Jackson. I also would like to point out that there was another program, Business Connect, for small business, which has also been removed. And as you pointed out, budget constraints have been cited as a reason. But as we have identified, mental health and youth are critical issues, and we need to actually lobby for it. And I would also like I'm very interested in this youth center. I would like to suggest that the council look at possibly community centers or centers which are not being used currently and see whether we can maybe change or transfer that to a youth center, particularly noting that we don't have many providers of youth services here in the hills, and also simultaneously look at securing grants and funding, as well as continuation of the CAF's funding from the government. I fully support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Selvaraj. Councillor Hazelden.
Madam Mayor, I was drawn particularly to your paragraph which included the comment, however young people are living through a uniquely challenging period, mental health issues are more prevalent among young people than ever before, with contributing factors including the widespread adoption of smartphones and social media over the past decade. And Councillor Selvaraj has just referred to these very things. And my mind was also drawn to a conversation I had with my own son probably now a couple of decades ago, and he was at the dinner table, and we were talking about housing, and this would be probably 20, 25 years ago, and even then he said, Mum and Dad, there's no way I'll ever afford a house. Now, in fact, circumstances changed, and he lives comfortably. But young people today have a very much even a magnified sense of the same problem. We read, including the mental health issues, we read about the prevalence of bullying in schools and even outside the schools. We read about how children are subject to the alarmists on the climate change side who preach of climate extremes, and we're all going to be burning in hell in the next 10 years if we don't stop doing certain things. And it's no wonder that when young people look around, they see this sense of hopelessness which is developing around them. And I think that for a state government at this juncture in human history to take funding at a time like this and treat it just as another cost shift to local government is a very, very unfortunate. In fact, it's almost a disgraceful state of affairs. Madam Mayor, the New South Wales State Public Service, as in all of the Labor states, continues to grow. We now have approaching between 470 and 478,000 public servants in this state, representing almost 11% of the workforce. The numbers are growing year on year, and surely there is funding available. The modest amount of funding that's been promised or suggested to be withdrawn from our council could certainly be funded more from other areas of the state budget. So, Madam Mayor, I think your mayoral minute is entirely appropriate. It's right on the button. It makes some very astute observations which we all know to be true, and it prompts us all to think about this burgeoning problem we have of how do we make our young people today who live in dual income households. They have working parents, they have a social environment which is completely outside the realm of people of my age. And so how do we fill that gap? How do we make young people feel that there is a sense of purpose in life? Because there always has been, and there always will be. But how do we imbue that in people? One of the ways to do that is to get them together to talk collectively outside the school environment. And that's where this type of program, youth programs, youth centres can play a very important part. I commend you for your Merrill Minute, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelden. Any further speakers? Councillor Uno and then Councillor Damasi.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise in strong support of your Merrill Minute. Look, Madam Mayor, this is just another example, unfortunately, of a state government, Madam Mayor, that is mismanaging their finances. Unfortunately, that's what it comes down to, Madam Mayor. That unfortunately, when you don't take care of the pennies, Madam Mayor, you lose track of the pounds. And this is what, unfortunately, Chris Minns and his band of jolly ministers has led us to. That now that they are coming to cut funding to youth, Madam Mayor. These are the sorts of programs that help youth. This is important to say, when we're talking about youth here, we're talking between the age of 12 to 24, where people are at their most vulnerable, that they are trying to find themselves, and they often need a guiding hand, whether it be family, schools, churches, Madam Mayor, or in this example, these sorts of community-funded events, to give them purpose, to give them direction, to keep them on the straight and narrow, Madam Mayor. And it is disappointing that this government is taking these actions because, unfortunately, Madam Mayor, the few dollars that they saved today, and it's important to state, this was a match funding, Madam Mayor, which means that we weren't asking for the state government to shoulder the full burden. It was in partnership with this council, Madam Mayor. But unfortunately, the cuts that the state government is taking now will just result in more disaffected, disenfranchised youth that may turn to aspects of society that detract from their futures, Madam Mayor. Where we need to be investing in them now, we need to be supporting the youth now through whatever means possible so that they grow up to be young, upstanding citizens of this Shire, Madam Mayor. I strongly support your Merrill Minute.
Thank you, Councillor Uno. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I do welcome your Merrill Minute on this subject. Madam Mayor, I cannot believe that the state government is removing funding for our youth. They did, as Councillor Salvage mentioned, they did the same thing for small business, and that was a complete disaster. Now they've got Mark Boris in to try and advise the government what to do with small business because they stuffed up. Madam Mayor, this is a complete stuff up. Our youth is in a changing environment. It's not just the social media and being dared to do things on their phones, and they're also they're on their own. The whole fabric of our society has changed. Mum and Dad have to work. We're in a very struggling environment at the moment where both parents have to work. Some of these kids are left their own devices. They come home from school, they're on their own. They have nothing to do. They need something to do. Scrapping this funding is only going to lead to trouble. It's only going to lead to chaos. I'm actually alarmed by this. I think this is absolutely horrible. And someone from the state government has to sit up and take notice of, they might think it's okay to save some money now, but what's to come in the future? It's going to cost a lot more to fix what they're about to break. Madam Mayor, I welcome your Merrill Minute. I do hope that the Minister Jackson sits up and takes notice of this. I think it is very important for every youth in, not only in this Shire, but in this state, to be looked after. And I think our state government is failing our youth.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. Any further speakers? Councillor Bonham, then Councillor Jackson.
Thanks for your Merrill Minute, Madam Mayor. Look, the decision to reduce funding for youth programming is just a bad decision. All parents of teenagers know just how difficult it is to find worthwhile, valuable activities for them to do. the sad truth is that Sydney, but all Western urban cities have just done a really bad job of finding things for young people to do in their leisure time. It's just a sad truth. We just haven't been able to give them enough opportunities to use their time well. And of course, what happens when they've got too much time on their hands, they can get up to mischief. Or just as bad, I must say, is just getting caught on these devices. And you've made reference in your mayoral minute to mental health. I know for a fact that some children are seeing things on their smartphones that are so disturbing that they have to be hospitalised and treated for serious mental illness. We have no control over what comes through these devices, and unfortunately a lot of young children have them. Whether the parents think they need them or not, I don't know. They certainly don't need smartphones, but I won't get into that whole argument now. But we have to be able to offer them opportunities as a council. We're not the panacea for all the problems of parents of young people, obviously, but we have a role to play to provide them facilities. And we have to be creative. We do pretty well with sporting, in spite of our shortage of active sporting fields. Our libraries are great, and they're great places for young people to meet. But we have to offer other opportunities as well. But it takes money. And here we have a state government that is telling us that they've got money for a whole lot of other things that I question, but not for this. And we all know that our youth are our present, and they're also our future. We have to look after young people. It's just not fair. It's not fair on families, and it's not fair on young people. So I join with the Mayor in asking the New South Wales Government to not only reconsider reducing the funds, but actually to think about increasing the funds for this really important sector of our community, our young people.
Thank you, Councillor Bonham. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a little bit of a chuckle when Councillor Damasi said that children are being left to their own devices, because that's literally what's happening. I'm aware of families that where both parents have to work. They are out for extended periods of time, some lucky enough to be able to work from home on particular days, but the children are being told to leave school so they don't get asked questions about why people aren't there to pick them up, and either go to the local library or go to another place and hang out and wait for their parent to turn up. I know of a particular case, at least one of in our council, where they're being told to meet at the library up until library closing time, and the parent is coming back and just trying to grab some food with them at the library or close by before they then head home, very much in the dark, to then be able to do it all over again. This has been a progressive problem over a period of time. I know growing up I had my mum at home and didn't have to work, and despite struggling as a family, they were still able to be in that situation and help us and be available to us. But I know that the reality is not that anymore. Growing up, we also had the belief as young people that you work hard and you'll get somewhere. There's many people working hard right now and can't afford a house and are struggling to afford even rent. I know of young couples that are unable to build a family because of the cost associated with that. I think we are very much in a dire situation, knowing, as many of us do, that the family is such an integral part of not just society, but a young person growing up. We also have heard so much about, it takes more than a family to bring up a child, it takes a community, but when nobody in the community is available, and when we have the community, taking funding away, and what we've already identified, the absence of a permanent youth centre within the hills, then the community is not there to be able to support that either. Madam Mayor, I absolutely support your mayoral minute. I really hope that the New South Wales Government can see the potential negative impacts of this decision. I suspect, like many things, especially recently, that the response will be that there is no money, and it will proceed as currently outlined. Despite there being no money, I think we're paying more and more taxes than we ever have, and where that tax money is going, who really knows? But I also know that especially Councillor Hazelden has talked a lot about cost shifting, especially to local government, and this is just another example of that cost shift, because local councils, being the closest to their communities, knows the impact of these decisions and then has to find or try and find money somewhere to be able to keep this going, as I know that no doubt we'll have to be able to keep these programs going. I note in there that it reflects on the beginning of Youth Week, and it's a bit of a somber kind of thing to be discussing rather than celebrating some of the great things that we can do for our youth. But I think there really has to be a discussion, and as we are having at the moment within council and within society, about where we want to place our priorities. And I think that we can't go wrong if we prioritise youth. There's been some reference to, what happens if you don't, and a lot of the time, many in the community go to the delinquents or those that are committing crime or other things. But I think the mental health problem that we're facing is particularly significant. So I hope that we can find a solution. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any further speakers? Councillor Gretsever.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I as well do commend your Medal Minute, and I believe this is very important and especially very timely for us to secure funds for the next financial year. And I'm very sad that, as you mentioned, largest service provider in our area, Youth Resolutions, ceased all operations in March 2026. Just would like to, I'm absolutely in support Medal Minute and echo what other said. It's very important initiatives, and what we do for youth, it's quite limited, and I'm absolutely support the motion. Just a minor correction that in the motion, no one taking away funding, no one cutting funding. The motion said for this 26-27 financial year, funding will total more than 96,000, and we're asking Minister to extend funding. So it's just, I believe, maybe interpreted wrongly by some councillors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I think it's okay. Any further speakers? No further speakers. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Against? It's carried. Thank you, councillors. We move to Mayoral Minute number 9/2026. Urgent need for improved public transport services in Box Hill. Councillors, over recent weeks, I've been contacted by a growing number of residents regarding the ongoing and worsening impacts of severe traffic congestion and inadequate public transport services in Box Hill. These concerns reflect the issues I have consistently raised since returning as Mayor. As I've publicly said, it's been 12 months since we launched our Fight for a Fairer Hills Future campaign, which began with widespread metropolitan media coverage highlighting the worsening congestion on Windsor Road and Old Windsor Road. These arterial roads carry significant traffic from Box Hill and surrounding growth areas into Norwest and beyond. That coverage, as part of the Daily Telegraph's Future West campaign, prompted an election commitment from the Prime Minister for $200 million to upgrade Windsor Road at Rouse Hill and a further $20 million to undertake a planning study for Old Windsor Road. While this was welcome, the reality is that conditions on our roads have not improved in the 12 months since. In fact, they have worsened, exactly as Council warned. Council staff have since road tested the morning peak commute from Gables to Norwest over 5 days, and the results are sobering. Compared with figures recorded 12 months ago, the average morning commute is now 9 minutes longer and 2 kilometres per hour slower, with an average travel time of 53.6 minutes at an average speed of just 21.8 kilometres per hour. It is hard to accept that it now takes longer to travel from Gables to Norwest in the morning peak than it does to travel from Mossman to Norwest during the same period. These outcomes clearly demonstrate that our road network, particularly Windsor Road and Old Windsor Road, is operating beyond capacity. The situation has been created by planning decisions made by successive New South Wales government, particularly in Box Hill, which was planned and delivered by the previous New South Wales government. Our country's population growth has caught up with us, and it's exposed a lack of planning and investment by successive state and federal governments. Our residents are sick of hearing the blame game and want action. When the Box Hill precinct was originally rezoned as part of the Northwest Priority Growth Area, it was planned for 9,600 additional homes and approximately 28,000 additional residents. Growth projections have since dramatically increased, with the precinct now expected to accommodate over 16,000 additional homes and up to 50,000 additional residents. Despite this escalation in growth, the infrastructure and service funding to support it has not been adjusted accordingly. Instead, Council is facing a $207 million infrastructure funding shortfall, the direct result of capped developer contributions, undervalued cost assumptions, and the state's failure to honour commitments to fund the difference. This shortfall has severely constrained Council's ability to deliver even base-level infrastructure such as roads, footpaths and local facilities. Suggestion that this state-created shortfall be addressed through the rate increases of up to 450% for Box Hill residents are neither fair nor sustainable and actually do nothing to address the underlying transport challenge. Critically, Box Hill continues to have limited and infrequent bus services, poor connectivity to Sydney Metro Northwest stations, and no on-demand public transport services at all. The New South Wales Government has confirmed that no further permanent off-street commuter parking will be provided around metro stations. In the context of Box Hill, where public transport connections remain limited and residents are more reliant on private vehicles to access both metro and heavy rail services, Council faces the ongoing challenge of managing competing demand for a finite supply of on-street parking. As commuter numbers continue to grow, a transition away from private vehicle use for station access will be essential. Over time, increased uptake of public transport will be required to support the efficient operation of the network and reduce pressure on the road network. The consequences of this failure are now being felt not just in Box Hill, but across the entire Northwest Corridor. Car dependency from Box Hill is directly contributing to worsening congestion on Windsor Road and Old Windsor Road, compounding delays for residents, workers and businesses. Young families, seniors, people with disabilities, students and residents without access to a private vehicle are disproportionately affected, with reduced access to employment, education, health services and local centres during sustained cost of living crisis. Road upgrades alone will never catch up with this level of growth. If the New South Wales Government is serious about housing delivery, economic participation and livable growth precincts, it must urgently act to reduce car dependency in Box Hill by delivering significantly improved public transport. This requires increased frequency and coverage of fixed route bus services, proper integration with Sydney Metro Northwest stations and the introduction of an on-demand public transport services to reflect the scale of growth already on the ground. Without this intervention, congestion will continue to worsen and residents will remain stuck in traffic, waiting for infrastructure that should have been delivered alongside development. The housing in Box Hill is being delivered. It's time the federal government, who sets population policy, and the New South Wales Government, who planned this precinct, come out and fix the infrastructure shortfall. Accordingly, I move that 1, this Mirror Minute be received. 2, Council write to the New South Wales Minister for Transport, the Honourable John Graham, for immediate and substantial improvements to public transport services in Box Hill, including increased frequency and coverage of fixed route bus services, improved integration with Sydney Metro Northwest services, and the introduction of an on-demand public transport system. And 3, a copy of this letter be forwarded to the State Member for Hawkesbury, Robin Preston MP, and the Federal Member for Greenway, the Honourable Michelle Rowlands MP. Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's timely you bring this mayoral minute, as I attended the meeting of the Box Hill Nelson Progress Association last night. And apart from the ongoing discussion around the contribution plan, I asked them if there was one thing we could fix tomorrow, and what would be our top priority, what would it be? And collectively the group said buses. Buses to the metro. Madam Mayor, I asked a resident at the meeting if they could give me their perspective on the bus situation. And they talked me through, and they were quite learned on this topic. They talked me through the issues they experience day to day. One of the residents, and I've got a bit of a blurb here, so I'm just going to read it out. Limiting parking availability and high demand at metro stations further compounds the issue, making it difficult for residents to reliably access public transport. The lack of infrastructure has real impacts on daily life. For instance, my son leaves home at 5 a.m. every day to secure a parking spot at Tallawong Metro Station. just so he can travel to the University of New South Wales. His commute takes approximately an hour and a half each way. He faces significant challenges simply getting to university. I then looked up the bus services that service the Box Hill area, and there's a fantastic service called the Kui Busway service. Now, this is those little blue on-demand buses, and I've driven through the Ponds, Tallawong, Schofields and Kellyville Ridge where they service during the peak of a morning. And I've counted, no, I haven't counted every bus, but I've seen the buses are numbered, and I've seen up to number 8. So I would assume there's at least 8 buses running around that area. Now, Madam Mayor, they pick up residents at a small fee. It's an on-demand service, and I've just looked up how that works. A resident picks up their phone, they download the app, they call the bus comes at a time, picks them up, takes them to the metro. Within that area, it's about $3. Madam Mayor, there is no reason why we cannot have this service running through Box Hill. Box Hill is a significant growth area within northwestern Sydney, one that is riddled with issues with infrastructure, and now we're basically telling these community, well, if you want to get to the metro, get up at 5 o'clock. Or get there at 5 o'clock. Madam Mayor, I congratulate you on this mayoral minute. I think we do need to continually push this point, and I know others here in the council have done so in the past. I will just turn councillors' minds back to pre-COVID. The metro opened and these on-demand buses were running all over the place. They weren't around for very long because COVID came and that was the end of public transport for a while. But we had a few of these running in the hills. COVID was over and they all disappeared. They're gone. And I've never seen another blue bus run through the hills again. Why can we get them in Tallawong? Why can we get them in Schofields, the Ponds and Kellyville Ridge, but we can't get them in Box Hill? Madam Mayor, it is as you say in your mayoral minute, yes, we welcome the $200 million to upgrade Windsor Road, and 12 months in we've heard nothing further from it, so I doubt whether that'll happen. But I'm glad that came as part of our campaign and our fight for Fairer Hills. But we need to be looking for short-term solutions. And I would even argue that this is a long-term solution. But something that could be implemented very, very quickly is an on-demand bus service. I know it's been discussed in this chamber through successive councils over a number of years, successive council terms over a number of years, that we look at ways that we can integrate people parking in parts of our assets that might be able to be picked up in buses and run across to facilities, such as the metro. We've got to look at all options here. It's no good to just keep relying upon a road that we say is going to be upgraded. As we've seen, it's increased, the traffic has increased. I read an article the other day that just in the last 12 months, Windsor Road has seen an increase in traffic of 10%. Just in 12 months. Even if they started building this road tomorrow, widening this road tomorrow, it's going to be a couple of years before that's built. We're going to be looking at 30, 40, 50% increase in traffic. Madam Mayor, congratulations on this mayoral minute, and let's really keep hammering home just the lack of bus services this community has. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Severage and then Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At a recent workshop that we had, I specifically remember there was this report from the New South Wales state government, and it was talking about transport and traffic in the hills area. And it specifically concluded with this: we can build more car parks, we can keep widening roads, but unless we take private vehicles off the roads, we cannot, the infrastructure support cannot keep up with the population growth. Now, I found that very significant. As you rightly pointed out, we need more public transport, and especially limited service transport as well. Now, Madam Mayor, I'm not sure whether writing a letter to Minister John Graham is going to work. I think we need to act. To take a step back, let's just look at what's going on here. We have taught developments in Bella Vista, in Norwest, and Kellyville. We're going to also have increased dwellings in Cherrybrook. Now, with the pressure that the state government is feeling on population growth, dwellings are being increased and dwellings are being built by private enterprise, and we do have parks and certain number of infrastructures as part of that, but there is still a big lag. And this is not just in the hills, it's across. I think as a council, we need to really seriously look at the public transport issues, because that's the only way, say in 10 years' time, unless we have very efficient public transport, we are going to be in trouble. Now, I have spoken to Warren Kirby. He has been working on what Councillor Blue referred to as on-demand services. Now, he doesn't want to call it as on-demand services, but as limited stop public transport. What do we call it? Because as again, Councillor Blue pointed out, we had the Blue service, but apparently past COVID, the demand for that service was not significant. I think demographically, we are slightly different to Blacktown, and because of that, the service was not such that it warranted it, and it was stopped, I believe, in May 2022. I fully support this proposal, number one, and I also know that the State Transport Department is in full support of introducing public transport. But I'm not sure whether we write a letter or maybe we have internal discussion, maybe our staff can assist. We need to go with the complete submission, number one, on more public transport specifically to Box Hill, and secondly, to limited stops transport. And what the discussion so far with the MP Warren Kirby has been that we need to pilot something between Box Hill and maybe Rousel or Tallawong, and then use that to sort of learn and then expand the service. So he's open to it, he's been working on it. I suggest we give some significant thought, put some activity to it, and maybe go with something a little more substantial, maybe talk to CDC, come back and go with something more substantial to Warren, who's willing to help, than maybe just write a letter. I think it's time to act now. Absolutely agree.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson and then Councillor Uno. Or you want Councillor Uno? All right, Councillor Uno, you're researching something.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Don't those words of Councillor Severage fill you with hope, Madam Mayor? Fill you with such feeling that something's going to happen, that we are going to get the infrastructure that we most desperately need in northwest Sydney, in those growth areas around Box Hill, Madam Mayor. But alas, Madam Mayor, we can say that past behaviour is an indication of future behaviour, Madam Mayor. So let's take a step back in time, Madam Mayor. Let's go on a journey of failed Labor government promises, Madam Mayor, way back to when I was in Year 10, Madam Mayor, in 1998, where Labor had promised North West Rail Line in 1998 but did not deliver it, where Labor only delivered half of the Parramatta to Chatswood link, Madam Mayor. Parramatta to Epping was never completed, Madam Mayor, and we are now 20 years later, Madam Mayor. The Northwest has been left growing without a rail backbone as it had been promised. Back in 1998, a parliamentary inquiry, Madam Mayor, found that residents had lost faith. The government would never deliver on the transportation promises that have been made. They were left with an inequitable share of transport infrastructure while being forced into a reliance on cars. What we are experiencing today, Madam Mayor. In 2008, Madam Mayor, the government had no timeline back then to deliver the Northwest Rail Link. Labor had failed to push the Northwest Rail Link hard enough at a national level, Madam Mayor, which unfortunately was left to the Liberal government at the stage to basically deliver, Madam Mayor. Instead of delivering on the original rail promise, Labor kept changing the plans, Madam Mayor. They were replaced by the Northwest Metro, and then the Reece government, Madam Mayor, indefinitely deferred that Metro in October 2008 due to budget cuts and constant chopping and changing of exactly what the Northwest needed. Premier Keneally, Madam Mayor, scrapped that Metro and the North West Rail Link, but instead pushed it years away. That was back in 2010, Madam Mayor. Labor's own ministers admitted that delay would cost taxpayers more. This is back in 2010, Madam Mayor. We would add $1.9 billion due to inflation. The broader pattern under Carr to Keneally, Madam Mayor, Premier Carr to Premier Keneally, was serial announcements without serial delivery. And that's what it comes down to. Now, fast forward past those years, those 12 years of state Liberal infrastructure building, Madam Mayor, where they delivered. We only have our Opal cards today due to, back then, the Transportation Minister, Gladys Berejiklian, Madam Mayor. For that, I'm eternally grateful. But now, and today, Madam Mayor, the Minns government, the government is still not committed to critical Tallawong to St Mary's link, Madam Mayor, and is still only at a business case stage. Northwest commuters are still dealing with bus failures instead of major new rail delivery. And even the Audit Office, Madam Mayor, the Audit Office says the bus system has not been managed effectively. January 2025, the New South Wales Audit Office found Transport for New South Wales was not effectively managing bus contracts to ensure that operators are meeting contracted obligations and customer needs. Madam Mayor, from Carr to Keneally, Labor promised the North West Rail over and over again. Changed the plans, delayed the plans, cancelled the plans, and left the fastest growing part of Sydney stuck in cars. And under this current Labor government, nothing has changed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Uno. Councillor Jackson.
Councillor Luna might have taken a little bit of my thunder, but I was really going to focus on some of the promises of the government and also remind everybody of some words that I mentioned in one of my speeches previously. In the budget reply speech on the 23rd of June 2022 in official Hansard, the Member of Parliament, Opposition Leader Chris Minns, stood and said, "Families moved to the West on promises of infrastructure, schools, hospitals and public transport, all of which seems to mysteriously never appear." He also said 2/3 of our state's growth over the next 20 years will be in Sydney's western and southwestern suburbs. Blacktown will see 200,000 more people move in, Liverpool 190,000, Camden 180,000, but to not match it with urgently needed infrastructure after a decade of neglect, it's just not right. His commitment was that he would build infrastructure where the population growth will be, and I've just added in there, I'm pretty sure that we're one of the fastest growing populations of any council. We will build infrastructure where the population growth will be, and above all, we will deliver proper healthcare no matter where you live. He also released a statement about Western Sydney infrastructure as part of his campaign and said in there, this government just, referring to the Liberal government at the time, this government just wants to push hundreds of thousands of people into Western Sydney without any infrastructure to match. It's time the West gets its fair share. And he also said, and it's just not infrastructure in the traditional sense. We need schools, hospitals, libraries, parks, roads and public transport links to open up economic, job and social opportunities. And this is the kicker, Madam Mayor, the thing that I'm going to stick with for many of my speeches. He said, this isn't rocket science. So where there is growth, we need the infrastructure to keep up. I agree with the now Premier Chris Minns. It's not rocket science. We need the infrastructure to match the growth. Madam Mayor, we talk about election promises. I was frantically trying to find some of my photos from the recent election because I'm pretty sure one of the things that the local Labor team ran on was more buses. And to hear Councillor Selvaraj say that we've got to take action, yes, I agree. And so there was an offer of a conversation with ministers to be able to get that moving. Madam Mayor, this was in opposition. Chris Minns emphasised how important it was and that it wasn't rocket science. The local Labor team have also pushed to have more buses in the hills. I'm just waiting for it to turn up. I'm just waiting for the promises to be kept, and I think we should absolutely hold them to account to their own words and promises as part of the election campaigns to be able to support better infrastructure, namely schools, hospitals, libraries, parks, roads, and he specifically called out here public transport, which includes the buses that we're talking about at the moment. I look forward for it to arrive, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Councillor Hazelden.
Mayor, Marie Antoinette, I believe, that said famously, "Let them eat cake." And over the years, it's been taken to symbolise the disregard that the aristocracy had for the common people. And it came to mind as I was listening to the debate tonight about the way the Northwest has been treated in terms of its infrastructure, including public transport. Madam Mayor, the Hillshire Plan, which we'll discuss later on this evening, projects a population increase which will roughly equate to about 5,000 people per year coming into the Hillshire. Ultimately, that's imposed on us by the bureaucracy in Canberra, where people drive on wide, leafy boulevards within just a few minutes of their place of work from their home. So that's where this is all descended, Madam Mayor. It's an appalling situation which is just, as we've heard tonight, has got progressively worse. There's blatant disregard of what's been happening out in the Northwest, and the Box Hill has come tonight to become the focus of this. And it's a terrible situation where people are spending so much of their valuable lives in commuting and just going about the struggle for existence. It's a very, very important mayoral minute you put up tonight, Madam Mayor, and I hope that it's prosecuted with all the fervour that you and the General Manager can bring to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hazelden. Any further speakers? Councillor Gret-Seaver.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm also in support of your motion. I just would like to talk more in terms of critics and blames of government. So I'm not who usually play in the blaming culture. I just try to orient on the results and the solutions, which I will talk later. But I would like to speak in terms of CP15, the Box Hill shortfall, which have been very affected our people and our community, and our council and our general manager and executive staff deserve most recognition in their successful planning strategies and delivery of the results. The capping model was, as properly mentioned before, was developed by Labour government, but then next year when the Liberal government was elected, capping model was adopted and not cancelled. And the capping model actually was work well, and a lot have been delivered on this model over the decade. And the problem was that it was no indexation happened during this long period. And second, unfortunately, there just was no exit strategy developed during when the cap was cancelled. So it's not just us who suffered of this decision, and many councils across NSW have the similar issue. I know about Blacktown, if I'm not wrong, around 90 million have shortfall as well. So, and getting back to the solutions, I just thought what the solution can be. We try, we escalated to the ministers, we tried everything. But I still believe the conflicts and problems can be only resolved by diplomacy, discussions, and partnership. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Cox.
Madam Mayor, all the debates made me reflect a little bit, and the other day I heard once again someone saying the real issue in Australia is we're over-governed. 3 levels is too many. We should be more like New Zealand or something. I disagree with that. I think 3 levels is not the issue, it's mission creep. The states do the hospitals, but the federal government runs Medicare and other things, and then they have massive bureaucracies that overlap, and then you get, Victoria is able to work out better ways of extracting more for their hospitals from Medicare than other states and things like that. And they hire hundreds of bureaucrats to try and do that, and then the federal government hires hundreds of bureaucrats to try and balance it out, and it's just madness. Equally, so the real danger is mission creep. And if we start running a bus service, I think that'd be a very big amount of mission creep. Local councils are not meant to do public transport. Buses are not our business. And the worst part would be if we provide it, we all know it'll be effective, it'll be popular, people will like it, and based, as Councillor Uno said, based on past, the financial statement that definitely doesn't apply as past performance is no indicator of future performance, but in this case I think it is. And we will then face the point where we go, right, we've run this bus service, we've spent the money, we've proven it's a great idea and it works, and the state will say, oh, we can't really fund it right now, and we'll be the bad guys that took away the bus service, or we'll be stuck funding it in perpetuity. And that is the failure of the three levels of government in Australia, is that we end up trying to fix issues we're not meant to, and not explaining to people it's not our issue to fix. I think we should advocate for our residents, and we should say, look, you're not doing what you're meant to be doing for us transport-wise, but I don't think we should go any further than that. I also did, with the mention of the capping model is a bad restraint that was put on local councils, mostly for the NIMBY recalcitrant councils that don't get their housing quotas in, or use it as a way, using these the capped things to use the income to actually dissuade development, not to cover the actual cost of it. I know of people that had issues with it in the past, but yeah, instead of calling out bad councils, possibly because politically they were more likely to be aligned with the Labor and the left, they put in the cap to say, well, all councils are bad. And it's very similar to the HDA. There's a lot of councils that aren't hitting the housing targets that are making the system not work. And what do? They don't go, right, we'll put this in, and it only applies in LGAs where they don't hit their housing targets or something. No, we put it in, and who gets smashed with it first? Oh, it's us. Isn't that lovely? And it's not even hitting the areas, it seems, that are the ones that weren't pulling their weight. Anyway, this is a great Merrill Minute. This is as much as the council should be doing on demanding extra public transport, but I hope we don't go any further, and I certainly hope we don't end up running buses.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Any further speakers? Councillor Massey?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your Merrill Minute. And look, one of the most important things which came out of this debate, I sat back and listened to the debate this evening, is what Councillor Jackson said. And it's a pity the media's not here tonight to highlight what Councillor Jackson had to say of what Chris Minns promised when he was in opposition and has failed to deliver on. Sounds like our Premier has a case of amnesia because what he's promised in the past he's not delivering now. So that's a complete failure. I really feel for the people of Box Hill. Box Hill is one of the fastest growing suburbs in Sydney. It's highlighted that in the local paper, one of the city papers just recently, as being the fastest growing suburb. And what do they get in return? They're being left high and dry. Just coming to Councillor Gritseeva, previous governments have failed. Even the Liberal government has failed, delivering the shortfall that we require. But just a reminder is that they're not in government anymore. The ALP government, the Chris Minns government, is in power, and they're now failing the people of Box Hill, neglecting the people of Box Hill by not delivering that shortfall. That shortfall that we need to help our residents out in Box Hill. Madam Mayor, just going on from Councillor Selvaraj, trying to justify why Blacktown have the on-demand buses and we don't, saying that those people are different to us. Yeah, they are different. They pay more rates than what we do over in Blacktown, and they're going to hike them. They're going to be hit with another 40% increase. So that's the only difference. But there's no difference. There's no difference. Our residents are screaming for a bus service. Looking at those statistics of how long it takes for someone to travel from Box Hill to the metro, only to find there's nowhere to park and having no alternative. Madam Mayor, I drove down through Schofields Road today and I counted 5 on-demand buses at 11 a.m. 5 at 11 a.m. So those buses are being used. Those buses were going back and forth as I was driving along that road. So why are we being neglected? Why are they only applying to the other side of Old Windsor Road or Windsor Road, where it's run by a different faction of government? To me, it's an absolute disgrace. Madam Mayor, the campaign Fight for a Fairer Hills Future, that was great, and it happened right on election time, and we got that promise. Now we just hope that the Prime Minister delivers on that promise. You know, if anything, as you said, things have got worse. At the moment, we've got a Prime Minister who's mounted an advertising campaign, $20 million advertising campaign, which tells you nothing, not a thing at all, telling us, you know, take your roof racks off your car to make your car to try and save petrol. How are the people from Box Hill meant to save petrol? Madam Mayor, we've got a cost of living crisis, we've got an infrastructure crisis, now we've got a petrol crisis, and those people, those struggling residents in Box Hill are suffering, and this state and federal government are just adding to the problems and the woes that these people have. It's about time that both the federal and state governments stood up and did something for the residents. The Honourable Michelle Rowlands now looks up, her electorate falls in Box Hill. Maybe she should have put some pressure on the state to do something about the bus service, because our people in Box Hill are suffering, as well as people here in our Shire as well. That on-demand bus service should be applied to the whole of this Shire, not as it does to the people out at Blacktown. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. Any further speakers? Councillor Jodie?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, just a reminder that this mayoral minute reads, the heading is urgent need for improved public transport services in Box Hill. Yes, the state government is responsible for providing bus service. Yes, as my colleague councillor said, infrastructure cannot keep up with the population growth. Dwellings are being increased, being built, but may I remind the same councillor that they were the ones who did not oppose overdevelopment when we were screaming late last year, please, no more high-rise in Hills side of the neighbourhood. When have we seen that your problems are being resolved by your neighbours? How can we expect a member of parliament of our neighbouring suburb come over and resolve our issues? So living in a la-la land to hope that so-and-so person will assist in including and establishing a bus service which has been taken away from the hills and is running its course in Blacktown, we must be kidding ourselves. So let's face it, let's be real. We are being intentionally discriminated. We are being intentionally undervalued. We are being intentionally ignored when it comes to Box Hill. We are intentionally made to look bad to the residents of Box Hill. The Box Hill residents need to understand very clearly one thing, that their councillors are actually working the best to raise awareness in state government counterpart and tell them that this is what our residents need. Our residents are screaming on top of their lungs for more public transport, which is not there. So what is the state government going to do about it? Let's not talk about what will happen 10 years down the line. Let's talk about now. Now they need this transport facility which they have been deprived of. And it is not the council's job to provide bus service. Council job is being done wholeheartedly by their council, the Hillshire Council. So it's the point that we need to make the state government aware that they are lacking. They are failing Box Hill and the Box Hill residents, and they need to pick up their game and be responsible. The Minns government and Minns himself, with due respect, he needs to understand that he needs to deliver what he promised and what he won the election on what grounds. So let's not phase it out, let's not sugarcoat it, let's not just pull wool over our residents' eyes any more than what they have gone through. Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is the most fitting mayoral minute I've seen. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jetty. Councillor Bonham, our last speaker.
Mayor, and thanks very much for this really important mayoral minute. The state government is constantly lecturing residents of Sydney, stop using your cars. You can't have cars. You're not going to have any parking for your cars. Use public transport. But guess what? We're not going to provide you with that public transport. That's just not on. They're foisting housing densities that are similar to what's happening in the inner city, like Surrey Hills. I think we've had some comparisons made with what's going to come to the hills. But does anybody know what public transport in the eastern suburbs is like? It's fantastic. Buses, trains, light rail, it's unbelievable. These people are really well serviced. But up here, Box Hill, where people are just crammed cheek to jowl, we can't get them a bus service to the metro. This is unbelievable. It's so unfair. It's just disgraceful. So I just am asking the Minister for Transport to really think seriously about providing these people. You've put them up here. You've said, come and move up to the hills. You're building these places for, or you're insisting that homes be built for these people, but you've got to provide infrastructure, and public transport is a no-brainer if you want people to use the metro. I don't like to use that term, but it really is. These people need some bus services. So thanks for your minute.
Thank you, Councillor Bonham. Everyone has spoken, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you, councillors. 2 for a division. There's more than 2. You can be seated. Councillor, you can vote on your keypads, please.
All votes are in, Madam Mayor.
All votes are in. The motion is carried. It is unanimous. I'll read the names of those voting for the tape recording proceedings for tonight. Voting in favour, Councillor Blue, Councillor Bonham, Councillor Cox, Councillor Massey, Councillor Gretsiva, Councillor Hazelden, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Jetty, Councillor Severage, Councillor Uno, and myself, Mayor Dr Byrne, with obviously Councillor Cartwright and Councillor Casby not being present tonight. Thank you, councillors. Any petitions this evening? No petitions? We move to planning matters. The following items 2 and 3 defined as planning matters pursuant to local government and planning legislation amendment, Political Nations Act 2008. We're going to start with item 2, and I believe Councillor Uno has declared a conflict of interest and he's going to leave the room. Do you want to move? I haven't even read it yet. I know you're keen. Item 2, draft voluntary planning agreement offer 40 Memorial Avenue, 1 Free Settlers Drive, Bella Vista, FP 187. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this was a very interesting. First of all, I'd like to move the recommendations as per the business paper.
Second by Councillor Bonham. Please continue.
Madam Mayor, this is a very interesting scenario where you have a VPA for this proposal at Memorial Avenue, just off Memorial Avenue at Bella Vista, Madam Mayor, and so this has been a state significant project, and it's like a real win for our council, because the actual proponent is going to be doing the works, and it's works that we could have done, and the works include them actually subdividing the land, providing a new road, building a bridge, a vehicular bridge for vehicles to use, and a roundabout. And that roundabout, on Free Settlers and Hodges is probably one where our residents of our retirement village are located. Is something that they've been screaming out. I know we put a temporary one in, but it's great that we're going to actually have something permanently built there. And I think this is a great result of council working with the proponent here and for this VPA, and for them to do the works and whatever's left over, money coming back to council. I think that's a perfect result. Madam Mayor, that's all I'll have to say on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Massey. Any further speakers? Councillor Gretseva.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like to provide the community the numbers and quick overview of the VPA. Important VPA for us, and it includes 4.7 million work-in-kind contributions, which will be spent on roundabout, traps, local roads, and dedication of land for district open space. As well, residual money contribution, approximately 7.26 million, would be paid to council on pre-dwelling stage basis. This is very timely and important VPA as it's aligned infrastructure with growth, with uplift in yield, not originally anticipated under CP18. This agreement ensures that critical infrastructure is delivered upfront and in step with the development, rather than lag behind. But by transferring responsibility for delivery to the developer, we reduce its exposure for escalating land acquisition and construction cost while gaining greater certainty around timing and outcome. Importantly, the independent quantity surveyor, which mentioned in the report, confirmed that cost of the work in kind exceed the value attributed to this work under the contribution plan, noted on page 31. This demonstrates the community will receive infrastructure outcomes of higher real value than nominated contribution credit applied. Overall, VPA represents a coordinated and practical infrastructure delivery model, bringing forward road, drainage, open space, and key connections to support growing precinct. It ensures that development matches by tangible benefit on the ground. And specifically, it mentioned on page 27, however, remains possibility that yield for building A may be reduced through the SDA assessment process in a future modification. This could result in monetary contribution pre-offset being lower than 5.2 million. Additionally, there does not remain some risk, albeit small, that infrastructure work may not be entirely completed prior to issuing occupation certificate for stage 1 for building A. So I would like to thank the developer for advancing this important proposal that not only meets statutory contribution requirements, but also delivers enhanced infrastructure outcome for our community.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Councillor Massey, right of reply. Thank you.
Waive my right to reply, Madam Mayor.
Fantastic. On item 2, draft voluntary planning agreement offer 40 Memorial Avenue, 1 Settlers Drive, Bella Vista. I've got a motion moved by Councillor Massey, second by Councillor Bonham, that the recommendation contained in the report be adopted. Councillors, the planning matter, so you can vote on your keypads, please.
Votes are in, Madam Mayor.
All votes are in. It is unanimous and it's carried, but I'll read the names for tape recording of proceedings of tonight's meeting. Voting in favour, Councillor Blue, Councillor Bonham, Councillor Cox, Councillor Damazzi, Councillor Gretseva, Councillor Hazelden, Councillor Jetty, Councillor Severaj, and myself, Mayor Dr. Byrne. Councillor Nuno is obviously out of the room with a conflict of interest, and Cartwright and Casby are not here, so that's carried. Thank you, councillors. We ask Councillor Uno to rejoin the chamber, please. Thank you. We now move to item 3, which again is a planning matter. Submission on state government public exhibition planning proposal, Kentwell Avenue Precinct, Kentwell Avenue 3/2023/PLP. Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as per the recommendation in the business paper.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Uno. Councillor Blue, you wish to speak to your motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, councillors, I've got some serious issues with what's proposed here, and they've been very well represented in the submission that we're considering here this evening. Councillors, I'll turn back to the meeting of 26th September 2023, and I've printed out just a couple of pages of the report at that time when this planning proposal was considered. And as our reports often do, they include a table produced by the staff of the strategic content. It states the land uses, different controls, heights, floor space ratio, residential yield and employment GFA. Now, councillors, at that time, the current control was between 400 and 900 dwellings. The draft Carswell precinct plan, I call it a draft because it hadn't quite gone final, but there weren't too many changes to this number post that, was 480 dwellings. The council at the time were presented with a planning proposal of 1,410 dwellings, 16,200 square metres commercial floor space, which was significantly less of the 58,700 under the precinct plan, and almost 25% of the total jobs that were anticipated under the precinct plan. However, at that period of time, we were seeing a number of these proposals being put to council, and when council was refusing them, they were going to state for review. The state were reviewing them, they were being approved, and council were losing attractive VPAs that assisted with the infrastructure required to service these developments. So there was, and I won't use the word compromise, but there was a discussion had and was put in the report, and council ultimately adopted a proposal that included 1,200 thereabouts units within that precinct. Now, that was significantly higher than what the precinct plan had included. However, as I said, we were concerned, or I speak for myself at the time, I was concerned that should we not have approved that, we would have lost the VPA. Now, the VPA went a long way, being $50 million, to addressing the concerns that this development would require. And it's unfortunate that councillors get put in positions such as that, where they're somewhat forced to approve buildings greater than the precinct plans suggest would be applicable, but it secures the infrastructure for the community. And we all would know what would happen if something of 1,200 units was approved or 1,400 units was approved without infrastructure. Well, councillors, that was the concern at the time, but it seems that was a waste of time, because here we are with the original proposal, and guess what? No VPA, no infrastructure decided upon. This council agreed to send it off to Gateway for 1,200, I think it was 1,210 dwellings. It's gone through some sort of review process. The proponent was more than happy with that. They were willing to work with council. They were happy with the 1,200 odd units. It's gone for a gateway determination. Somehow it's now turned into 1,400 and the infrastructure's all gone. Forget about it, don't worry. Councillors, this is unbelievable. I cannot understand how we've ended up in such a position here, and I don't think that the proponent has shown any form of legitimacy here in what they said they were going to do and working with council to resolve the infrastructure concerns. I just turn councillors' minds to page 62. When council considered the planning proposal, being September 2023, the proposal was accompanied by an offer to enter into VPA to address the infrastructure demand generated by the proposal. At the time, it was determined that should the planning proposal progress, which it did, the infrastructure offer would be required to have further negotiations to reach an offer that was proportionate to the extent of the growth proposed and covered likely costs providing new infrastructure. $50 million. Councillors, the planning proposal currently on exhibition is not supported by any infrastructure mechanism. No infrastructure mechanism. And this line here, I'm going to finish with this. It is irresponsible for this issue to be further delayed in the process. The proposal should not be progressed to finalisation without certainty that the increased capacity in school infrastructure will be provided in the locality. Councillors, we need to, it's my view, we get behind this submission. tell the department they've got this wrong. This planning proposal should not proceed until the infrastructure is sorted and we go back to what we approved of the 1,200 to over 2 years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Any further speakers? Councillor Cox.
Just briefly, Madam Mayor, there's a bit of deja vu, or what you want, flashbacks with Councillor Blue going through it, but I'm just appalled. It goes off with a reduced number. We've all compromised. We've come to something we can all live with. And then for some reason the state's like, no, go for your life, guys. Have all the apartments you originally wanted and don't give them any extra VPA. In fact, just get rid of that. We just need the houses, you know, to heck with anything else. And this is just this endless cycle where the people of New South Wales have been offered housing that is of a lesser quality than they would have got up before or otherwise, and they're going to live in less desirable homes, in less desirable locations with less services. And it's just sad to see it. So, yeah, I wholeheartedly support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Councillor Uno.
Madam Mayor, this is another example, unfortunately, of a state government without a plan, without a proposal, with no concept of infrastructure for North West Sydney, Madam Mayor. A VPA, Madam Mayor, is explicitly designed to provide for the infrastructure and the amenity, Madam Mayor, that a greater density brings. And when the department, Madam Mayor, through various planning panels, decides to completely disregard that, you just have to just shake your head, Madam Mayor, and go, what on earth is this state government doing? Like, there's no point, Madam Mayor, of putting in additional dwellings, hundreds if not thousands of additional dwellings within the Hillshire, Madam Mayor, if they're not going to provide the appropriate foresight and planning to ensure that people can move around, Madam Mayor, that people can get to their jobs, can get to the schools, to get to their areas of community service, Madam Mayor, to be able to be a coherent, cohesive community, Madam Mayor. The state government is going to leave a scar, an absolute scar in North West Sydney, Madam Mayor, and the sooner that they are removed, the better. I just certainly hope that the members, or the staff within the Department of Planning, heed the comments and recommendations of Council, Madam Mayor. I think, and it is summed up exquisitely well on page 72 with the conclusion. Given the planning proposal has not demonstrated adequate site-specific merit, there is no infrastructure mechanism to deliver the upgrades required to support the proposal, and significant regional infrastructure issues remain unresolved, Council should object to the finalisation of the planning proposal. The proposals require significant redesign, yield reductions, and inclusions of appropriate infrastructure solutions, Madam Mayor. And until the department returns to their senses of what we've seen in years gone by, I hold little faith that we are going to end up with a more cohesive community, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Uno. Any further speakers? Councillor Grazia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I prepared speech, but I would like to talk just with the facts in the report. First of all, the planning proposal went through getaway determination with the special conditions, and it's just mentioned in page 25, where the department 85, where department advising those conditions, and they are saying this proposal should proceed subject to the following. And first, prior to public exhibition, LLP should be completed or on before 17 July 2026. And condition of those as well, 1A, consult with council on proposed very one rezoning for Central Public Park. Proposal should be updated with following council consultation to adequately address their feedback. Consult with Transport NSW to ensure the relevant traffic and transport matters revised in their correspondence and considered. and mostly important, prior to finalization, ensure inappropriate mechanism in place to deliver the proposed community benefits. So I looked at what's happened with the proponent and VPA history, and proponent indicating on page 92 that saying that the letter has been prepared in response of corresponding with our council on July 25, saying that they understand since OFA council passed a motion at council meeting in July to review its contribution plans currently applying to Castle Hill Strategic Centre. They are saying, we understand the primary phases of CP review has commenced and will include the review of CP9 for Castle Hill Tower Centre and CP17 Castle Hill North. Its anticipated council CP's review will rationalize the contributions framework into one single consolidated CP for the entire Castle Hill Strategic Centre. Importantly, it's expected to close the current gap in residential contribution rates that apply to Site B to move closely aligned with contribution rates under CP17. They are saying proponent wishing to discuss this matter further with the council, including implication for potential planning agreement. And on page 94, revised public benefit offer. The proponent formally recites its original offer dated 12 November 24 and advised that intends to submit a revised letter of public benefit offer to council consideration. They are saying, accordingly, in the last paragraph, a meeting with council forward planning team to discuss the revised offer and next step toward advancing VPA for Site B of planning proposal. So I really hope this will happen. So in summary, we all expect and council expect a revised proposal that reduces density, improves build form, secure finally infrastructure contribution, resolves traffic impacts, provides clear planning controls, deliver adequate open spaces and response to community infrastructure needs. I would strongly encourage the proponent to engage with council at this point. This opportunity to work collaboratively, sit down with council officer and resolve this issue in a structured and a timely way. And I also invite the community to provide submissions and feedback as well. As far as I'm aware, this was CP community consultation plan put by Minister for Planning and Public Spaces, which advised some radical changes in community consultation, which include that submissions to the proposals should not be technical. Everyone can do it, and the time extended for the submissions. So I invited the community to provide their feedback as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grazieva. Any further speakers? Councillor Cox.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to the General Manager, suspect, or possibly someone in planning. If a developer undertakes to have a chat with us after approval, are they usually bound by that or liable to give us 1 red cent more than they're required to in their approval?
Through you, Mr. Edgar.
Very difficult to answer that in that way. I mean, obviously, the best practice is to have everything exhibited concurrently. Your planning controls, your development controls, and your infrastructure offer. That's what the gateway determination required, and I think it's very important that our submission to the decision maker just reiterates that work needs to be done. The letter that is in the business paper rescinding the previous VPA and outlining what they think is a new VPA is probably not going to be meet the expectations on initial thought. I was fortunate enough to meet with the management of QIC only a few weeks ago when along with Cameron McKenzie, our Group Manager for Development Compliance, was shown the works undertaken in the redevelopment of the towers proper, not this site, that this VPA issue had to be addressed and the local park had to be provided and other contributions had to be provided to make sure that the rezoning actually made sense. I'd be expecting some sort of further dialogue and further offer from QIC, to be honest with you.
Thank you. Councillor Severaj.
Thank you. Add a clarification, gentlemen, if I may. Page 54, I note that on the 5th of September, the proponent had, from a request from us, reduced the dwelling from 1410 to 1260, and I believe Council on the 26th of September approved a marginally decreased dwelling of 1236 with a FSR of 3.5 is to 1. Now I also note in page 78 when the panel actually made its decision that recommends that prior to submitting the planning proposal for a gateway determination, the planning proposal to be revised to address the following. And it talks about yield, it talks about height. So I'm just wanting to find out where is the discrepancy, considering that there's a caveat already here that before going to gateway determination, there is something that the proponent need to address. Where is the discrepancy still? Is it the floor space or what is it?
I think in general answer, that proposal is no longer on the table because it got amended through the various other pathways that are available now to an applicant.
Right.
So it's a different proposal to what it was back then when there was agreement. I don't know if there's anything else I can add to that, but so the history is quite unique in that it changed, and it changed. What's been exhibited is even different to what the gateway, as I understand it. So I just think that reflects the different pathways that are available to applicants to have proposals approved for exhibition by the department.
Thank you. Councillor Hazelden. Of course.
What's the linkage between the Department of Planning and the Department of Education in considering matters of this nature?
Good question. Ms. Degger?
Probably there would be a consultation step, like it would be for planning proposals that we provide. I don't think there would be a joint decision making by the department and schools infrastructure around that issue. They would just seek the advice and requirements of schools infrastructure before making a final decision. Anything you would want to add to that, Mr. Carl?
So the gateway determination includes authorities to be consulted. And you'll see in the report, one of the matters raised is schools infrastructure is not included in that consultation list. So that would be one of the points proposed to be raised in the submission, that should occur.
Yeah,
thank you.
Consulting may well be followed up by ignorance or simply ignoring the concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Councillor Blue, your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for your feedback on this proposal. But I think what's been made apparent here tonight is that we have a very strange and convoluted planning system that is inherently broken, and questions why sometimes I even bother sitting in this chair. We as a council made a decision, and I appreciate it went to Gateway, but I wouldn't have thought it'd come back from Gateway completely different, what the proponent want, and council don't even get a say in this. Lost $50 million worth of infrastructure, and I appreciate the General Manager said there could be a further discussion, but what we've got in front of us is currently there's no infrastructure. This proposal requires 75% of a new sports field, 75% of a local park, 75% of a netball court, the same with the tennis court, new and upgraded traffic and transport items, and 239 square metres community floor space. Our Transport and Traffic Regional Modelling for Castle Hill, funded by Transport for New South Wales, quantified the impacts of planned residential and employment growth on the regional network. The study concluded that the expected growth in the precinct will result in long delays and heavy congestion of the road network by 2036. Therefore, any planning proposal that seeks to permit additional yields beyond planned capacity and beyond the capacity considered within the regional traffic modelling must be addressed with implications on surrounding regional traffic network. Well, the proponent hasn't done that. The infrastructure concerns have been repeatedly raised with the proponent and the department during pre-lodgement, formal assessment, rezoning review, pre-gateway and post-gateway phase of the proposal. Well, it was spoken at great length here in September 2023 and we thought we'd resolve that, but clearly what we'd resolved was just thrown out the door. When Council considered the planning proposal in September 2023, the proposal was accompanied by an offer to enter into VPA to address infrastructure demand generated by the proposal. The VPA offer at the time included construction and dedication of a public park, roads and footpaths and the payment of monetary contributions toward active recreation. It now seems that the proponent wishes to resolve their infrastructure concerns through a simple CP, which we don't even have in place at this point in time. So we don't know how much we're going to get. We don't know what this CP looks like. It may be a bit of a rhetorical question, but perhaps we create a site-specific CP just for this site so that we can ensure we get the required infrastructure. I'm sick and tired of developers coming into this shire thinking they're going to just fill up with boxes, sell them off and make a heap of money and not provide the infrastructure that's required for our community. This development is going to create absolute mayhem for our community. It's not going to address any need other than ticking a box to achieve a housing target that we still don't know where that's going to end. I'd be half accepting of this development if it included the infrastructure as I was in September 2023. As it is now, I cannot accept this proposal. It needs to be addressed and resolved before it even gets close to being approved, because we all know what's going to happen. Once you get an approval, it'll go up and that'll be the last we hear of infrastructure. Madam Mayor, I can't believe we're having to deal with something like this, and I congratulate our staff for the submission. Keep pushing these people into sorting out this infrastructure, because we cannot accept this here in the Hills, and this isn't the first time, and I'm sure it won't be the last. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. On item 3, submission on state government public exhibition planning proposal, Kentwell Avenue Precinct, Kentwell Avenue, Showground, Pennant Street and Castle Street, Castle Hill. Got a motion moved by Councillor Blue, second by Councillor Uno, that recommendation contained in the report be adopted. Councillors of planning matters, you can vote on your keypads, please.
All votes are in, Madam Mayor.
All votes are in. It is carried. It is unanimous. I'll read the names of the tape recording proceedings. Voting for the motion, Councillor Blue, Councillor Bonham, Councillor Cox, Councillor Damasi, Councillor Gratsiva, Councillor Hazelden, Councillor Jackson, Councillor Jetty, Councillor Severage, Councillor Uno and myself, Mayor Dr Byrne. And again, Councillor Cartwright and Councillor Casby are absent this evening. So it's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. We now move to the call of the agenda. I'll read each item one by one. If you wish to speak to that item or pull it, please flag it. Item 4, revised code of meeting practice, Councillor Cox. Item 5, review of planning proposal policy, policy 22 FP 286. Item 6, sponsorship policy, Hillshire Council 34/2026. Item 7, you're quick, Councillor Uno. Draft Hillshire Plan FY 26-27. Item 8, pecuniary interest report, March 2026. Item 9, can I receive Councillor Blue's hand over there? Orange Blossom Festival 2026. Item 10, proposed land acquisition, lot 40, DP 1238674, Monmouth Drive, Box Hill. And item 11, property dealings relating to development matters. Councillors, can I have a motion to move item 5, item 6, item 8, item 10 and item 11 on Globo? Moved by Councillor Cox, second by Councillor Jetty. Is there any debate? No debate. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Those against. Those recommendations are carried. And the recommendations for those items in the business paper are now the resolutions of this council. We go back to item 4, revised code of meeting practice. Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I figured I should take this. I've taken the last few of these, and once again we're slightly modifying things to comply. We've had the live streaming now for a while. It seems to be working as well as it can be expected to, and as we're required to, I think we should adopt the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. Any further speakers? Oh, sorry, I need a seconder. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Councillor Grazeva. Do you wish to speak, Councillor Grazeva?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As well, briefly, the public forums just a powerful part of our local democracy and gives opportunity to our residents to speak directly with council right before decision made and for the matters which actually affecting them. So I just genuinely encourage our community to participate in it. If something matters to you, please step forward, put your voice on record, be part of the conversation before the meetings and before the decision are being made, but not later. I hope our community will use this tool, and I hope see people in the chamber bringing their issues, concerns, and this will be the good opportunity to our community participate, because our entire policy should be community driven, and we exactly need to know what is the concerns and what community experiencing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? No? Councillor Cox, you write a reply. You're waving at me, so we're on item 4, revised code of meeting practice. Motion made by Councillor Cox, second by Councillor Grazeva, that the recommendation contained in the report be adopted. All those in favour say aye. Those against, it's carried. Thank you, councillors. We go down to item 7, draft Hill Shire Plan, financial year 26/27. Councillor Uno.
Madam Mayor, I rise to move the recommendation as stated
Move
in
the
this paper.
recommendation, second by Councillor Hazelden. You wish to speak to your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, this is an incredibly important document, Madam Mayor, that sets the tone, the nature, and the expectations for residents over the coming 24 years, Madam Mayor. It actually sounds kind of scary. That's only 24 years to like 2050, Madam Mayor. But it's important to state this is not just a strategic document, Madam Mayor, but that this is a document that keeps the council operating. The report that clearly states that if the operational plan and budget are not adopted by 30 June 2026, council cannot levy the rates, collect income, incur expenditure from July 1, 2026, Madam Mayor. This alone just shows how important that this document before us is today. What I support most about this draft plan, Madam Mayor, is that it's not just a vague or symbolic in motherhood statements. It brings together the community strategy, Madam Mayor, the delivery program, resourcing strategy, operational plan, and fees and charges into one integrated framework, Madam Mayor. In other words, it links a long-term vision with real delivery, real budgeting, and real accountability. When we look at the numbers, this is a serious delivery plan, Madam Mayor. Council's total expenditure in the budget is $267 million. Of that, 110 million will be, or 41%, is directly spent on the provision of maintenance of infrastructure, Madam Mayor. We are doing the heavy lifting when it comes to infrastructure for our local community. On top of that, the plan gives us a high priority of 63 million to capital infrastructure, spending and forecasts that have a surplus of $22 million. We are fiscally responsible. We're not putting our residents into uncontrollable debt spirals, Madam Mayor. We are using our money, not our money, the community's money wisely, Madam Mayor, and for the future generations. This kind of financial discipline and infrastructure focus for our community expects from this council. Madam Mayor, it includes 17 million on new and renewed roads, 15.9 million on maintaining existing roads, 18.8 million to maintain parks and bushland, 15.6 million for acquiring land for open spaces. These are visible, tangible commitments right across the Shire. It's also worth putting our rates position into context. The average residential rate of the Hill Shire is forecast at $1,348, Madam Mayor, per annum. And I've lost the reference as to what page that was on. But by comparison, the published neighbouring council figures that I could verify are Blacktown, $1,418, Hornsby, $1,667, and Hawkesbury, our neighbours to our north, $1,737. So when residents ask what value that they are getting, the answer is this. The Hills is delivering a major infrastructure program while remaining restrained on residential rates. I also welcome that this draft plan reflects practical local priorities, including advocacy for better metro station access and improved bus connections, as stated, Madam Mayor, with your very well put Mirror Minute. Investigation in a new cemetery within the Shire, planning for a new SES headquarters, and feasibility work to enclose a 25-metre outdoor swimming pool at Waves, the aquatic jewel in our crown, Madam Mayor. These are the kind of practical initiatives that shows the plan is grounded in the real needs of our growing community, and importantly tonight, it's not just an end of the process. This draft plan goes on exhibition over the coming month with submissions, then we'll return to council. This is good governance, Madam Mayor, and it gives our community the chance to help shape the final outcome. So for me, Madam Mayor, this item comes down to three things: financial discipline, strong infrastructure delivery, and accountability to our residents. This draft plan shows that council is planning responsibly, investing strongly, and delivering real value to the people of the Hills. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Uno. Any further speakers? Councillor Grazeva.
Very well said, Councillor Una. I also would like to support endorsement of the draft Hillshire Plan for public exhibition. It's not just another planning document, it's a reflection of where we are today and where we're heading. Yes, we have a lot of challenges. Why? Because right now the Hills is the one of the fastest growing regions in the Great Sydney. We already have over 220,000 residents, and in 20 years' time, we expected increase more than in 50%. So what makes this grow even more remarkable is scale and speed, and our population growth rate is 4%, significantly higher than Greater Sydney average. Only few areas in NSW actually experiences this level of transformation. So some fact about our Shire. So 30% of, just 30% of our Shire is urban, while 70% remains rural land, bushland, and natural environment. So this means in strategy development, every planning decision we make carries a responsibility to balance growth with preservation of what people love most about the Hills, its green and open garden Shire character. This plan responds directly to that challenge, and it recognizes that growth is not just about the houses, it's about people, families, lifestyles. In fact, 52 households in the Hills are couples with the children, well above in the Sydney average. This tells us something very important. We are a family-oriented community, and our planning must reflect that. Parks, childcare, libraries, safe and connected neighborhoods. At the same time, our community is becoming more diverse and globally connected. More than 40% of residents are born overseas and speak a language other than English at home. Diversity is our greatest strength, and this plan ensures we continue to build an inclusive and welcoming community. Economically, Hills is strong, with nearly 25,000 businesses, 88,000 local jobs, and economy worth almost 15 billion. But there is a critical issue we must confront. Only 0.76 jobs per worker, meaning many residents still have to leave the area for work. That's why initiatives in this plan, such as strengthening local economy, supporting businesses grow, and activating centres are very important. Financially, as Councillor Una mentioned, this plan demonstrates strong and responsible management. We are delivering next year budget over 331 million, including significant investment in infrastructure services and community facilities. Over 110 million into local infrastructure, 79 into protecting and enhancing our environment, 52 million into community services and vibrant lifestyles. Beyond those numbers, what I found most encouraging in new forward-thinking initiatives in this plan, we are exploring ways to enhance our maritime economy and safer public spaces, plan for future cemetery needs, improve transport connections, strengthen community engagement, including new ways to connect with young people, review our environmental strategy, including biodiversity and water quality. However, we must be clear, Council cannot do this alone. Many of the biggest challenges facing our Shire, particularly transport, school and major infrastructure, require strong partnership with the NSW government. Finally, I want to acknowledge the extraordinary work of Council staff in preparing this plan. This is a complex and very comprehensive document and reflects a high level of professionalism, expertise, and commitment to our community. I also encourage all residents to take part in public exhibition process, and this is your opportunity to shape the future of our Shire. It's strong forward-looking roadmap for our future, and I commit it to Council for public exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Hazelden?
Madam Mayor, this document would be exemplary if it stood alone, but it doesn't. It's part of a pattern now over the last couple of decades, which points to the fact and reinforces the fact this continues to be an extremely well-run organisation, and the General Manager and his executive staff in particular, supported by successive councillors that have acted responsibly with fiscal prudence, have to be congratulated to achieve this result. Madam Mayor, we are facing headwinds, however. We hear from time to time about the reality that infrastructure that's built today requires maintenance in 5 or 10 years' time. I looked at this report through the lens of the fact that we are going to continue to grow at approximately 5,000 residents a year. If you say it quickly, it doesn't sound very much, but it's a small town every year that's going to become within the boundaries of this Shire, and it is already a significant problem, as we've heard at length tonight. It will continue to be a significant problem. And returning to the last item, Madam Mayor, when we talked about the proposed development opposite Castle Towers, we need to just think through the magnitude of an extra 3,000 people on those local schools. I'm sure the owners of QIC and Castle Towers and the retailers understandably would be rubbing their hands with glee, but there is a wider issue at stake here. Madam Mayor, there's everything to be pleased about in reading this report. I just wish when we get, as councillors, we get sometimes quite strange requests and observations from disaffected residents. I wish we were in a position to hand them this in a précis form and say, this is how good this really is living in the Hills Shire Council area. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a lot to process, consider, thinking about the amount of time and effort that the council staff and executive have gone through to bring us such a robust plan, as indicated here. It's provided under a number of different parts. The Towards Hills 2050 Community Strategic Plan, 48 pages, Delivery Program, 43 pages, Resourcing Strategy, 97 pages, Operational Plan, 69 pages, and Fees and Charges, 89 pages. I thought of a number of things that I could say during the time that we have available to us, but none of it would be able to encapsulate the sheer amount of work and also properly encapsulate what the plan is of all the things that we are aiming to be able to deliver through these particular programs. And I kept coming back to a particular paragraph that sits in this document on page 250. It says, Council's long-term financial outlook over the next 10 years continues to remain positive and strong. Council is projecting ongoing operating surpluses over the next 10 years while continuing to proactively transfer funds to reserves to fund renewal of Council's existing and growing asset base, which is estimated to amount to $7.1 billion by FY 2035-2036, and that goes back to the comments from Councillor Hazelden. And I hope our residents, for those that may be listening or in the chamber at this time, understands that it's not just about what you're spending now, but it's also what you're putting away for the future. And clearly Council is doing that. It also says here, Council's total cash flow also continues to remain stable and grow while exceeding financial performance indicator benchmarks. The Hillshire Council is considered a top-tier council and one of the best performing councils in New South Wales. Madam Mayor, we know from different media reports that there's some councils struggling. I know that there's been media reports about some rural councils and their ability to be able to operate as effectively as they should be. We've talked about costs shifting, but what it all comes down to is councils need to be able to provide services and support to their residents in a number of different forms as outlined in this particular document, but you can't do any of it without any money. And clearly through the paragraph that I've read, the Hillshire Council is not out there trying to get as much money as we possibly can from our residents, as outlined a couple of times tonight about the differences in our rates between our council and other councils, but we're also making sure that what we are spending is within reason, and what we are putting away is sufficient for our needs into the future. I'm proud to be part of this council. I'm proud to have the General Manager, the executive staff, and also the staff that have worked in the background to put together such comprehensive documents with the sole focus, no doubt, from our finance team of making sure that it's within our means. And I hope if residents do get the opportunity to be able to consider this document, that they consider it in the light of what it was designed, and it was designed to, as best as possible with the information that we have, even considering the fuel comments that were in there, to be able to support our residents and our future residents into the future with infrastructure and with services that hopefully that they'll be proud of. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Councillor Uno, you're right to reply.
Madam Mayor, the only additional point which I would just like to draw Council's attention to is that this plan, Madam Mayor, accounts for the fact that we will undergo tremendous community change over the coming 24 years, Madam Mayor, with one simple fact or statistic on page 270, Madam Mayor. The growth of the Shire up until 2050 is predicted up until 2046, Madam Mayor, is 54.37%. So look at everyone in this room, Madam Mayor, and add in another half. That's how many people will be in this Shire in that short space of time. We have got a tremendous job in front of us, Madam Mayor, and this plan before us lights the way. And also all councillors to support it. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Uno. On item 7, draft Hillshire Plan FY 26/27. The motion moved by Councillor Uno and seconded by Hazelden that the recommendation contained in the report be adopted. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Is against? It's carried. Thank you, councillors. We go to the final item for tonight, item 9, Orange Blossom Festival 2026. Councillor Blue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and we all love being part of OBF. Oh, sorry, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as per the business paper.
Thank you. Have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Jackson. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, we all as councillors and the community love being part of OBF, and the schedule proposed here in the report this year is even more broad-reaching and includes a lot of our favourites coming back again, such as Taste of Wiseman's, Echoes at Bella Vista Farm and the parade through Rouse Hill Town Centre. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this, Madam Mayor, but again, both yourself and I were down at Wiseman's Ferry earlier today, and the community had said to me again, you know, Councillor Blue, I hope that Taste of Wiseman's is coming back again in September. I said, well, based on the outcome tonight, hopefully it will be. So, provided this motion gets up tonight, that will be an event that returns. That event itself has been a really big part of the Wiseman's Ferry community. They were hit very hard by the bushfires and floods over a number of years, and we're all feeling a bit down over there for a while, but bringing tourism and events such as this to our rural north has been a winner for the community and winner for council. What I would say with that event is that it grew on strength last year from the year before, and we saw an increased number of people. It was a really well organised event and certainly had something to offer for the whole family. What I would like to see there is that we ensure we use as many local providers and contractors as we can, showcasing the true part of the North Ward in the hills. And onto the parade there at Rouse Hill Town Centre. That was probably the biggest I've seen in the last couple of years, being last year. Another well-attended event. The only thing with that, someone said to me, is we'd love to see a farm truck driving down through the parade full of boxes of oranges on the back, so maybe that's something we'd be able to do into the future. But again, I think OBF this year is going to be fantastic. I know there's a lot of work that goes into putting this together, and I congratulate the staff and hope this motion gets up tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Blue. Any further speakers? Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also stand in support of this motion. I really like the Orange Blossom Festival. I moved into the Hill Shire in 2009, and in that year I got the opportunity to kick off my first Orange Blossom Festival, and I've been lucky enough to be able to attend them every year that they've been on since then. Looking at the business paper, first established in 1957, which means we're hitting 70 years next year. So hopefully we'll put on an extra bit of love for the festival. With the addition of A Taste of Wiseman's, we don't get as much love in some areas of of North Ward, but to have A Taste of Wiseman's at our most furthest, or close to the most furthest northern point of our shire, for a community that has struggled through quite a number of different challenges, including floods and a few other things over time, where we can encourage those within our community to visit all of the events at Rouse Hill, A Taste of Wiseman's, but also Echoes at Bella Vista. I have really enjoyed the Echoes. I know that I had a fair bit of feedback last year of people that were excited to be able to go and experience what it had to offer. But I, more than anything, I like the opportunity that it is able to bring our community together to be able to celebrate, enjoy and understand a little bit more about our history, and for those that do either volunteer or bring their local businesses into those areas, be able to help grow the Hill Shire and assist as outlined here on page 636, the local economy. So I absolutely support these events, and especially the Orange Blossom Festival, and look forward to seeing you all there. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also are in support of this motion this evening on the Orange Blossom Festival. Madam Mayor, it's great to see that this council does reinvent itself. So, and some of the events we've got here are new events. Like, wasn't that long that the parade's been at Rouse Hill Town Centre, so we moved it there. So, and proved to be a success. So, when you're on a good thing, we'll stick to that. The Taste of Wiseman's, it says this will be its third year running, and it's great to see that that kicked off, and we're continuing with that. And our newest kid on the block is the Echoes at Bella Vista Farm. I mean, that is an absolutely amazing event. And what this does, Madam Mayor, is it does help the local economy, because we not only catering for our own residents, but we're catering for tourism in our shire, and we don't often have that opportunity to bring people into our shire, and having those two major events of Taste of Wiseman's and Echoes at Bella Vista Farm, it's like a mini light show as they have in the city out here, and so for residents who can't get to the city to see the light show, which normally takes place in around May, June, they can just come and see us out here in the hills and Bella Vista Farm. So I congratulate our communication, our team for putting this on and continuing with it. So I'm looking forward to Orange Blossom Festival, and encourage all residents to not only attend but invite visitors to come along to these events as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Damasi. Any further speakers? No further speakers. Councillor Blue, your right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The only thing I'll add is I look forward to seeing all the councillors out there in September. Thank you.
Thank you. Got a motion moved by Councillor Blue and seconded by Councillor Jackson that the recommendation contained for item 9 in the report be adopted. All those in favour say aye. Those against, that motion is carried. Thank you. Meeting closed 9:34. Thank you, councillors, council officers, members of the public.